Lorraine is 65. Cynthia Lorraine. Councilor. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Members of the public may watch and or participate in this open meeting using any of the following methods. Attend in person at the township office located at 2958 Greenfield Road, Freezer. Watch the live stream by pressing the meeting on the township YouTube page. Attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. To attend electronically, members of the public must register with the clerk's division in advance. Submit written comments to the clerk's division in advance of the meeting. The correspondence will be provided to the mayor and the council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. And we will begin this evening by moving into closed session. The open session portion of this evening's council meeting agenda will commence at 7 p.m. Could I please have a motion to move into close?
Myself, by Councilor Tilly, that council move into closed meeting session at 6:01 p.m. under the Municipal Act Section 2392B, D, and F to discuss report number LG 02-2022, personal matters by identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees. Advice is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 2, report number CAO 43-2022, labor relations or employee negotiations. And 3, report number CEO 44-2022, personal matters by identifiable individual, municipal or local board employees, and labor relations or employee negotiation.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, and now we're into close. Councilor Tilly, can I have a motion,
Just
please?
if we're into close, we need to pause the live stream.
Hold on a moment.
You pause the live stream.
We- Good evening, thank you, and we're reconvening back into open session from closed and out of closed session. Report number LG 02-2022. Council received a report and direction that was provided to staff. In report number CAO-43-2022, council received a report and direction was provided to staff. And report CAO 44-2022, I'll call for the motion. Council Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Osmer, that the Chief Administrative Officer may recruit, hire, or extend a temporary facility operator for the equivalent of 40 hours per week as a backfill position for a maximum time period of up to 8 months and not to extend beyond the end of August 31st, 2023.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Can I have approval of the agenda, please? Council Tim.
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Bowman, the council adopted certain call. Council agenda. Add item 13.11 G, report number FIN-36-2022. 2023 draft budget document. Number 2, add item 13.11 H, report number FIN-38-2022 fees and charges.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. I'd like to do the Indigenous and Territory acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Neutral. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. I'd like to now pause for a moment of reflection as we realize what's happened in the past, how we're looking forward to move forward together with our Indigenous partners. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of community or interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. We will now go down to the delegations and Kate Pressman and Kate McGinn with Air 200 providing an annual update to council.
Thank you, Mayor Sweeney. Going to give this to my tech over here. Okay, we're supposed to go down.
Oh, God. I thought that was your.
Well, now that we have your attention, I'm Kate Pressman, for all of you that don't know, and with me is my partner, Alea Gent from Southwood School. And we have a group of 10 on our committee, and many of them were otherwise involved tonight. So we have Mary Schmidt with our chair, Derek Osner, vice chair, Rod Rolleman, our council representative, Brooke Brenneman, treasurer, Kelly Nielsen, our secretary, Irene Adney, and everybody knows me, myself, Denise Foxton, Alea Gent, and Pat Radke. So Alea and I are doing our presentation tonight.
Just, I forgot to tell you, take 10 minutes. So,
Oh, it won't
thank
take
you.
that long, no. Okay, our first part is history of air, and my second question is, did you folks receive, as council members, did you receive this package? No? Okay, you will, because there's a lot of detail on there. And a lot of it is about the history of air and right way back to the 1650s. And Irene here yet? Okay, I can see this. And she has spent a lot of time researching the history of air, and it is so interesting, all the way up to Dumfries and how it was divided into two, north and south and so on. And then we became the region of Waterloo. So the first 5 pages is all about the history of air. And when we get to the one page there, the air 1924, Air 100 commemorated with building of Victoria Park Bandstand and Gates. Reunion held in August, the 8th weekend. So they did some major renovations and major construction in the 100th anniversary. And we have a few things in mind for our 200th as well. And, but that is not all confirmed. A lot of this is very flexible and fluid yet. Would you agree with that, Derek? At this point, yes. In 1973, Air Council was amalgamated with North Dumfries because of the regional government, which is almost 50 years old next year. We were talking about that at the other bit. I was with Sue. And then in 1974, the Air 150th celebrated with several events, and it was called the Air Sesquicentennial. Sesquicentennial was established, and we had that. So this is one of many parties, but because they're 50 years apart, not a lot of us have been at all the others. So we're all going to be at this one though in 2024. So our role as a committee of 10 is collaboration, cooperation, support, and liaison with all our other community organizations. And I know we're calling it the AIR 2024, but keep in mind, Air and North Dumfries aren't separated. So we are going to have some events in the township as well. And I'm not sure if anybody realizes, but I'm very proud of the fact that North Dumfries Township is actually older than Air. So we're going to celebrate both together. Now I'm going to call on Aaliyah because she is our media person. So I will let you come up here and talk about that, and then I'll come back.
Hi. So Mary introduced me to this role at the beginning of March, maybe, and since then I've been working on many different projects, which is like the website I've been creating, the Instagram page, the Facebook page, and the Twitter page. And so there's all of our usernames on the screen, and if you need any help logging into any app with this, I can help you with that. And yeah, that's
Okay. All right, doing really well, and we are so pleased to have some younger people on this committee. So then she'll be really practiced up for the 150 years from now. Younger, I said.
Oh.
Now, the media site, that's what she just did. Our community meeting we had here in this room on November the 14th, and we did have about 30 groups represented that night. It was absolutely fabulous. 23 actually, but we had about 50 people here. It was advertised in the Air News, social media, North Dumfries, e-blast, and so on. So we had a really good turnout, lots of enthusiasm, and that's what we said earlier. Our team is to work with them collaboratively. We cannot plan all of this ourselves. It's kind of, I keep putting it back to, it's kind of like those big plowing matches. We had the executive, and then we had all the subcommittees reporting back, but there has to be that communication line to have success. Everybody can't go out on their own. September the 20 in 2023, so a little less than a year from now, we hope to have a special stamp. In the fall, next fall, we really want to have a fundraiser, and if we speak really nicely, we hope to have it in our, hall here. And then the same fall, we hope to do a commemorative calendar for our, the following year, of course, obviously for 2023. And Christmas 23 postcard send out using a commemorative stamp, event tickets and registration, and we don't know what all that's going to be. We want to encourage people to purchase tickets for a group of things, so they're not only buying special tickets. And then the spring of 2024, a big downtown banner in Air, and hopefully we can have, we're looking to have a storefront downtown where we can really publicize and promote it. throughout the summer when people are driving through here. And then our celebration weekend, and this is kind of decided now that we will do most of the events that weekend from August the 1st to the 5th, 2024. And doesn't mean we won't have events in January or February or April, but the majority of it will be in that weekend. And the Thursday will be meet and greet, Scottish delegation and tree planting. We've already got the Scottish people on board for that. Friday, we hope to have a hoedown dance and a light show. And Saturday, a parade, the RCMP musical ride will be playing more, but they'll do their drill more than once. And a concert, midway, food trucks, as I say, these are suggestions at this point. And then Sunday, a major church service, community picnic, children's games, midway, Air Paris band, concert in the Victoria Park. And then the next day, Monday, we're discussing how we can kind of slow down the weekend and have some street lunches and porch concerts and something very, very different in the village, So we've been doing a lot of thinking, and these are suggestions. Anybody else that has other suggestions, we welcome them for sure. Well, that's our first one. We're going to do some tampering with that one. That is not our final one, but that is the start. We wanted the thistle and we wanted the numbers, but we have spent, I don't know, 45 minutes the other night adding and subtracting, and it will still be similar, but it will have more information. So that's a beginning. And our next meeting is going to be in January, and we hope to have presentation for sponsorship opportunities for all our local businesses. So the first meeting we had here in November was all about groups and trying to expand the group and the manpower. Now we are trying to get our businesses and opportunities for groups to support us. And we need a lot of money to do this. And we are working on that. So our next steps will be sponsorships, grants, which a few of us are working on, swag, which is like souvenirs. What are we going to put this lovely logo on? And a storefront, as I mentioned before. So that's pretty much where we're at. We've done a lot in about 4 meetings, and we've talked a lot and we've learned a lot, and we've got a good start. So do you have any questions? Aaliyah would love to answer them.
Any questions?
Any questions at all so far? That's kind of our update.
Excellent.
And I'm glad you're excited. We are too, you can tell. And we will be back with more information and more requests, I'm quite sure. But thank you very much, Christina, for speaking to us tonight about the finances. And if you have no more questions, then we'll just let you go and enjoy and participate in everything.
Councilor Roman, can I have a motion?
Yes, move myself by Councillor Tilly, that delegation of Kate Creston and Leah Kent on behalf of Air 200 be received with thanks.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Next, we have Art Warner regarding a township noise bylaw complaint. I hear 10 minutes, please.
To do my presentation after Kate's.
Tough act to follow.
My name is Art Warner. And I'm here to complain about a noise bylaw. I want to welcome the new council members. Got a lot of challenges. I like what Mayor Clark said at the inauguration. So live, to be honest. I think that is very important. And I'd like to add to that, use common sense, not just to you two, but for everybody. When you make a decision, it's not just anybody's common sense, but your own common sense. I find that very important. I've been there, done that, so I know what I'm talking about. It's very important to use common sense. Now, to the pitching department. I've got it's kind of duplicated here, but let's just read through it basically all there is here. So I am complaining about a noise that's being produced across the river from me where I live. I live on one side of the river, noise is coming from the other side of the river. So I would like to have something done about it. So the noise bylaw states that's an unwanted intermittent noise coming from a garage there called Gervais. If you're familiar, not familiar with it. And I will explain in a letter later where it is. And, excuse me. The noise bylaw states in item F, noise means unwanted sound. And then item 3.1, no person shall make, cause, or permit noise or vibration or any type which is likely to disturb an inhabitant of the township, which may include disturbing the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, or convenience of the inhabitant. And this is where I come in. Then we go to the other page that I gave you. I think you all have it. And the heading is on the reasons for request. And just going to read through it if you don't mind. I'm going to explain what Gervais is located off Swan Street on the back property of the old building known as the Watts Mall. The garage has been built recently, approximately 2 years ago. The new garage building is not a build over, meaning that some of the existing buildings stayed. It's a completely new building right from the foundation up. And it was built where there was 2 existing Quonset buildings. So this is a new building that is built on a floodplain, and it's about 200 feet from the Nest River. And I'm told it's zoning 9F. Now I've had a problem getting the proper zoning on some of this, but 9F. 9 is supposedly industrial, and F is floodplain. I'm going to pause it for a second. So, using common sense here, this building is brand new, on floodplain, and industrial zoning. Now, I'm not going to say any more. Just think about that. Why that building was permitted to be there? That's my question. Okay. So I'm going to continue. My issue is that the business is mostly tires that are removing and installing tires on vehicles. The tires do not make any noise, but the tools used by the air impact tools are very loud. Also, rotors and brakes are replaced. These often require sledgehammers to remove, which result in steel on steel sound. It's very loud. The garage has 3 large roll-up doors. When they are open, it sends any sound produced in the garage like an outdoor stage across the river my way. I live directly across. But when I was younger, I could drive a golf ball there easier. So anyway, I'm old and retired, and I wish to spend my last days enjoying the outdoors on my deck. Not only has the COVID forced me to stay home, but I also had 2 major operations in the last 2 years. I have my deck set up to outside enjoyment. I read, listen to music. I have a TV out there to watch and enjoy nature. The noise is intermittent, but it's a distraction when it happens. All I want is peace and quiet. I find this noise very disturbing and annoying. Now I've got the bylaw listed again, but we went through the already, so we don't want to do that. And the second part is the recommendation to council. Keep garage doors closed at all times while work is being performed. This is my suggestion. And a bylaw to enforce the door closure with penalties for breaking the law would be my other suggestion. And I can tell you when the garage doors are closed, there is no problem with the noise being heard. It's already here. And then we go to the page that says the recommendation to council, and again, we'll just read through it. So, number one, I'm asking that all 3 roll-up doors be closed at all times while performing work. The doors are closed, there's very little noise to be heard. Number 2, pass the bylaw to enforce the doors be closed when performing work in the garage. There are 2 garages there, by the way. One that Gervais operates, and they are across, there's a right of way there. They're across from each other. I don't know if everybody knows this, but the one is mainly tires and brakes, and the other one, they do the technical engine repairs, tune-ups and stuff like that. So there's 2 garages there, but the one that's the problem is the one with the tires. And number 3, Gervais garage shall be notified that the garage roll-up doors be closed at all times while work is being performed. And it should include the penalties which are already listed in the bylaws. When the garage doors are closed, I can barely hear the noise. The business operates with the doors closed all winter, so why not in the spring and summer? It is my understanding that the garage has no air conditioning. The owner of the building, which is not Gervais, by the way, can easily and cheaply install air conditioning. The furnace and ducts are in place, so all it needs is an air conditioning compressor, which would be less than $500. Problem solved. This noise issue has been going on for 2 years. I have tried in vain to get the bylaw officer to talk to Rick Gervais to close the doors. The bylaw officer, Justin Harris, has refused to do that. I must apologize to Mr. McNeely for sending him many emails to get Mr. Harris to look after Gervais. I had no idea that Mr. McNeely was not Mr. Harris's boss. I wish Mr. McNeely would have told me so, and it would have made matters easier. I only found out days ago that Ashley Sage was his boss. I have found Mr. Harris difficult to deal with. He did not answer my telephone calls, would not reply to my emails, and totally ignoring my concerns. And
You've got a minute.
I'm sorry.
1 minute. I'll be 10 minutes.
Well, I'm done, except if anybody has any questions.
Councilors and comments.
Anybody have any questions?
Don't see any staff. Do you have comments or questions? Comments?
So, Madam Mayor, if I could, and this won't be new to Mr. Werner, I have provided emails to him where we consulted with legal counsel on the matter of the noise emanating from the Gervais Motor site and its relationship to the adjacent residential fabric on the west side of the Nith River, including Mr. Werner's property to the south west of the subject lands. In the noise bylaw, there's a section 4, and it's the general exemptions. So section 4.1 says none of the provisions stated in part 3 shall apply to the following. And so Mr. Werner did share with you the applicable provisions from part 3 of the bylaw in his presentation. If I move down to item H under the general exemptions, it says any place of work located in a legal construction or industrial site within the limits of the township, except section 3.2 shall continue to apply. Section 3.2 of the bylaw is that business activity is permitted between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday inclusive. Does not allow that activity on Sundays or statutory holidays. So there is a general exemption because the property is zoned Z9 industrial. It is an industrial site, and as such, the noise bylaw, save and except those permissive hours of operation, the property is exempt. And so we have provided that information in writing to Mr. Werner, and as such, the bylaw does not allow us to lay charges under the noise bylaw because of the exemption provision. And that's essentially where we are. We're at a standstill. I've had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Werner at his property. We spent an afternoon outside on his back deck. And certainly you can hear in the background the occasional sound from a power tool, as well as metal banging on metal. We were able to continue our conversation. I didn't have to raise my voice, but you can hear the sound emanating from the property. But from a court action, filing of charges under the Provincial Offences Act, the opinion of legal counsel is because of the exemption provision, we would not have any standing in front of a justice of the peace if charges were to be laid.
Councilor Weston.
That being said, has anybody approached Rick and kindly asked him, hey, would you mind keeping the doors closed? Instructing the neighbors?
I would like this council.
I was just wondering if we could approach Mr. Gervais and say, you know, is there any way you can kindly keep doors closed? It is disrupting the neighbors, it's upsetting the neighbors, and we appreciate it if you could accommodate that.
So in discussions with Mr. Harris in the past, it is my understanding that he has approached the operator and asked as a good neighbor policy, would they do that? I have observed the doors open predominantly in the nicer months of the year, and especially when the temperature or humidity gets higher.
Well, Mr. McLeary, oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Warren. So go ahead.
So the thing is, if one of the counselors, or the mayor, just paid a nice friendly visit and just explained the situation and asked them kindly if they could consider doing that, like just as a nice neighborly gesture, rather than a forced complaint. If bylaw comes, it may appear as a complaint. It may, it may be a little bit offensive to him. So maybe if somebody either on council or the mayor just went down and had a nice friendly conversation and say, you know, would you consider this? Because there are some neighbors that are home during the day because they're retired and they don't want to hear the pounding. And could you please keep the doors closed?
If I may, Councilor Ross, if I'm working in a building like that, the doors are closed and there's no air conditioning, you saw how big it is. That would be like a big no air conditioning, and that's what they say. There's no air conditioning, so for air circulation, this applicants on those hot days, hot humid days.
Well, that's working conditions. Working conditions should be alleviated from owners of the building, the boss. That shouldn't be discussed, regardless if they keep the doors open or not. That like working conditions are something that should be manageable. But I just think that a little conversation might go a long way. Our bylaws state that they can keep the doors open when they're working. But if you want to be a good neighbor, you want to be a friendly neighbor, you might want to consider just abiding by your neighbors.
But I think under the Labor Act, they would not be allowed to close them up in hot summer due to the stresses on staff, which will be alleviated if the doors open. But if we read the resolution, well, I think CEO Noyes did a good solution. He said that the delegation of Art Warner and associated complaints related to the noise bylaw be received, and that when staff undertakes the review of the noise bylaw 2609-14 as part of the 2023 work plan for the Corporation Services Department, that the matter of the exemption of industrial uses form part of the analysis and review, and that Mr. Warner be kept abreast of the work underway by staff associated with the review of the noise bylaw 2609-14. And I think the review is the answer. I think that a bylaw regarding noise in an industrial park is different than a bylaw regarding noise in a residential area. I think maybe we should be looking at that when we do the review of the bylaw. So I think it's a good motion. Is any other questions? Are you okay with that, Counselor?
I'm fine, but I got no problem with the conversation.
Okay. You can do that as you counsel, you're fine.
As we look. When we talk about governance, everything in governance moves in the system. And a lot of residents don't understand how governance moves and how long and slow sometimes it takes. Meantime, they're putting up with that, but a conversation can be 5 minutes long. And it can be left up to them. If they continue to leave the doors open, at least we've done our due diligence while this motion is in progress.
And I'm comfortable with that. And if you want me to do it, I can do it as well. I have no problems with it. I just understand the reason why the door will be open for summer. We've had some really hard, summers, especially this past year.
Am I allowed to say?
No, sorry, Mr. Gervais, your time's up and now it's time for council to discuss. So if any other questions or comments? Can I please have the motion, Council Williamson?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Osner, that the delegation of Art Warner and the associated complaint related to the noise bylaw be received. And that when staff undertakes the review of noise bylaw 2609-14 as part of the 2023 work plan for the Corporate Services Department, that the matter of exemption of industrial uses form part of the analysis and review, and that Mr. Werner be kept abreast of the work underway by staff associated with the review of noise bylaw 2609-14.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now the motion to go into committee of the whole, please.
Move on myself, second. Move on myself, second by Councillor Wells, like Councillor Jordan said, of committee of the whole.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Wow.
Is there any member of council that wishes to pull any of the financial functions? We are pulling E and please. So the first one is the interim tax bylaw, and second is the borrowing bylaw. Third is the Cambridge McDuffie's Foundation grant additional awards allocations. D is transfer of reserves. E is the one we're pulling, which is community grants working group. F is mileage compensation rates. G is the draft budget document. And H is the fees and charges bylaw. Any want to be posted for comments at this time? Seeing none, then we will pass all but E. I'm just going to. So you do not have to read it in its entirety, Council Bowles. You can list it just as I did, and with the leader off, please.
Moved by myself, and by Councillor Tilly, the committee of the whole recommend the following items included as presented as outlined in the staff reports. This is the finance function area. 13.11A, report number 10/31/22, 2023 interim tax levy bylaw. B, report number 10/32/2022, 2023 borrowing bylaw. D, report number 10/33/2022, 2022 Cambridge Montgomery's Community Foundation Grant Additional Award and Allocation. E, report number 10/34/2022, 22 transfer to reserves unspent programs.
This is no parking measure.
It's similar to all of our other new subdivisions. Parking is permitted on one side and it's specified as to which side of the road it is in the bylaw.
Let's try and reconnect everyone. You know, we can use too much for the cuts.
Just maybe, so we're still like.
Okay, then we move forward with the motion, please. Council Thomas, you have the motion. You do not have to read it in its entirety, yeah, just read the title and the vote.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Osner, that the committee of the whole recommend the following items be approved as presented as outlined in the staff reports listed in the community services function area. 10.1.3A, report number PW-28-2022, no parking at Gibson Street and Monmouth Court. 10.1.3B, report number BW-29-2022, no parking on War of Bates Court. 10.1.3C, report number PW-30-2022, letter of credit reduction request -828543 Ontario Inc. and 839658 Ontario Inc. Legacy Phase 1A, 1B, and 1C subdivision. Section 10.1.3D, report number PW-31-2022, letter of credit reduction request, Hallman Construction Limited and Brian Dom, Cambridge West Development Lands, file number 30T-16103 and 30T-16104. And last 10.1.3, well, no, not last. E, report number PW-32-2022, Nitfield Bridge Structural Assessment. And 10.1.3 F, report number PW-33-2022, Piper Street Slope Stability Analysis Update.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you.
Just to clarify, we're going that, for the bridge, structural assessment, we're going to go back to with that.
Under the capital, you have the.
And then,
Yes, of course.
in our agenda says 13.
Okay, so let's go back. You're talking. It should be good. Total corrected. No. Okay. Right, and we are at. And next we'll have the governance practice, governance and protective services, and we're pulling out item E and H for a discussion. Is there any other items that wish to be pulled? They are the Brantford Power Merger, and closing alignment adjustment. The fire dispatch services agreement with the city of Kitchener. The municipal election accessibility report, the establishing of the committee of adjustment for 2023. E, we are pulling. F is establishing appeals committee. Okay, that's correct. Council meeting schedule for April 2023 to December 23. Pulling H. I is the fire department incident report. Council governance report is J, and that's it. So any of those you want to pull before we carry on? Okay, so Council Tilly, you're going to be reading these. We will strike out E and we will strike out H, please. And again, not in its entirety. Unless you really want to.
No. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Williams. The CO report number 40-2022 be received. How much further would you like me to describe that?
Okay, you can start.
Okay. The CO report number 41-2022 be received. The CLK report number 33-2022 be received for the purpose of information. The CLK report number 34-2022 be received. The CLK report number, no, that's not the one, skipping E. The CLK report number 36-2022 be received. The CLK report number 37-2022 be received. The FD report 11-2022 be received for the purpose of information. And the CO report number 39-22 be received.
All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. So, number E was that council appoint a counselor as the alternative member of council to attend regional council if the mayor is unable to attend. Now, you can do this, but over the past term, when Councilor Gary had to be missing, they selected the council. With your permission, I wouldn't mind doing the deputy mayors in the order that you went. I know they say you're not supposed to, but they accepted it. I guess it's a reason for that.
Legislation very clear.
Okay, so you want to select one person to attention and be absent?
I believe we're discussing it and that we're okay with waiting until some point where we have to decide that. At this point, I don't think we're forced to make a decision at this point.
I agree, okay, so I'm comfortable with that, if you are. So, we're gonna put that, council does not appoint. I'm gonna just do it. Okay. So, Council Tully, if you will repeat it and just say that council is.
The CLK, excuse me, the CLK report number 35-2020, is that correct?
Should be 2022.
2022 be received.
That's it. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And the second one is appointing people for the committees. So the first one we have is appointment to sit on the Air 200 committee for the period in February 28th, 2025. Would someone like to do that? Council Rowland? Council. Air Cemetery Board? Councilor Hospital? And the North Dumfries Community Health Committee. Council Wellness, thank you. So, we've gone through all, we've selected any, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Next, can I have the motion for committee of the whole to adjourn? Responsible.
Myself, by Council Austin, I can hold hereby adjourned and the council will call back to work.
All those in favor? That's carried. In this next one is the motion to pass and adopt the resolutions that we presented tonight. It's an extensive one. Do we want to just state as presented? You can go through each line, it's Councilor Austin. You can read each line, or you can say as presented. Okay, so it's your motion, please. And, just take that as it is.
Move by myself, second by Councilor Wallman, that council adopt the resolutions as presented by committee that will dated December 12, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Council Williams, you doing the minutes, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Council. The council approved the following minutes. Council meeting minutes dated November 7, 2022. Inaugural council meeting minutes dated November 21st, 2022. Council orientation, training and education workshop meeting minutes dated November 28th, 2022. And council orientation, training and education workshop minutes dated November 29, 2022.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Would you like some discussion about the next one first? We're at the crowds concerning the proposed sidewalks on the north side of Pepper Street. Council Bowman?
Madam Mayor, Lee Robinson, I met with, Mr. Power, I don't know what it was now, a month or so ago, at his residence, we discussed the, changes to the sidewalks. At that time, I believe, I think you can correct me, but I believe that we said that we're gonna, discuss with the council at budget time, we discussed the sidewalk part of the budget.
Is that how we read it then? The motion just says report. So
Essentially, what they're saying is that they felt it was unnecessary expense to move the sidewalks that four sides through that small section. They were in favor of using the sidewalk as it is, putting a raised crosswalk just before the old Midvale Bridge entrance way. And then you mentioned that we have to have the hump for that, or basically warn the traffic of the raised crosswalk. So it's a discussion that I think you want to get cost or gives cost thing based on the difference between putting the sidewalk versus putting in raised crosswalk and the traffic.
and residents may not like the base crosswalk sidewalk and now. Yes, that'll be for further discussion. Any other comments or questions regarding this matter? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Sterling?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Williams, that the correspondence and petition received from Mr. Nick Power concerning the proposed sidewalk on the north side of Pepper Street, extending westward from Rose Street, be received, and that staff convene a neighborhood meeting to discuss the proposed sidewalk and alternative design options to facilitate safe pedestrian movements along Piper Street corridor west of Rose Street. And then upon completion of the neighborhood meeting, that staff would turn to council with the follow-up report.
Thank you very much.
I think that we said that, but we were just going to do the budget. I don't know. We actually went to the neighborhood meeting with that.
Well, that's what staff had recommended, but I'm not too sure how many people will monitor the budget deliberations, and we would bring that information into the budget lens, because there's several options that might be considered. And I just want to make sure everyone's got the same base of information in the neighborhood, because then they may wish to weigh in on your budget deliberations.
My concern is, yeah, time before budget is there.
That's what I was going to.
What would that look like? What would that look like?
So we would bring together those residents in that section of Piper Street together. We would outline what the issue is, why a certain recommendation had been initially advanced earlier in the fall of 2022, and what our objectives were, what other alternatives may exist to address the issue, albeit in a different form than what was presented in the fall. And then we would present to Township Council. We don't anticipate approving a budget until the early part of February. And the intent would be we'd have that sometime between now and I'll suggest the third week of January, so that we can then filter that into a report as part of a later budget meeting.
Yeah, and you're comfortable with having that, you're comfortable with having the information ready for a public meeting within the first 3 weeks of January,
A neighborhood meeting.
neighborhood meeting. Yeah, that's okay, everyone understand then? And, I don't think so, no, because that includes the report. Sorry. So, all council will be made aware of the meeting so we can attend.
If members of council wish to, it'll be an event hosted by staff, similar to what we did with the Parquet meetings 2 weeks ago. All members of council were aware of it, but it's led by staff.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Next is the letter from MVP Amy Fund. Are there any questions or comments? The break, this is in this guy. No comments or questions, then all those in favor? Oh, please, do I read the motion?
By myself, as a council officer, that is correspondence by Captain Five concerning bill 23 received for purpose.
All those in favor? Spirit, thank you. There's a list of correspondence. Does anyone want to pull any of the correspondence? The first correspondence is from the premier, the second one is from J.E. Weaver regarding the gravel trucks. Now, that's the section of the road that has a no truck sign. Several times that they just ignored. Police went out one day, they spent probably an hour and a half there and ticketed me to. So this is an issue that either we sort of ignore or we find a way to deal with it, and I'm not sure how. Any suggestions from staff would be more than welcome.
Well, Madam Mayor, council passes bylaws. This section of, well, actually, Shoaldice in its entirety, the area in question is also by bylaw designated as a no truck route. Unfortunately, the only individuals that can enforce that is the Waterloo Regional Police Service. And so from time to time, the issue arises, and we notify the inspector from South Detachment that there's been an uptick in truck traffic. They please enforce it, and if there's an officer available, at some point shortly thereafter, an officer does a routine check and enforces the bylaw. But it's not a day in, day out, week in, week out monitoring.
But if we can reach out against the police, can I ask that? So please, because I found that the police action maybe has been much improved. And I'm hopeful that they can come up more often. If they're all even infrequent, it still deters because people don't know their actions. So if we can, go ahead, Council Woods.
I just had a question. Do we know who most offenders are, or is it just random trucks?
I'm gonna say random trucks. I think a fair number of them are aggregate because they're going from one pit onto Spencer pit. So I think, and at the end, it's a highway traffic.
Is it an alternative route that they're not using? Is that the reason why it's, they're just taking the fastest route? And that's why this is.
Yeah, it's just the fastest and easiest. So I can ask staff to please contact me at some point and ask for infrequent, but presence on that road for the trucks. The next is the Prime Minister's award.
Just to finish up on that last one. Is there no way to, for lack of a better term, rent a cop? You know, when you go to Waterloo Region and you can hire a police officer for a paid duty. And the money collected from those fines, does that go to the region? Does it come to us?
So it goes through provincial offenses court, which is administered by the region. And after the costs of processing whatever the charges are, the net amount will come down to the township. And obviously, depending upon what the overhead is of the court for that month or that year, varies from year to year. But no, it's not a direct revenue back to the township for every ticket issued.
So, just to follow up on that though, basically what I'm getting at is I would almost bet that we could cover the expense, like could it cover the expense of having a paid duty officer out there for what it costs, the amount of fines. So I mean, it's not an indefinite thing. It's just gonna make a statement saying that we got no problem putting an officer out there. And obviously, these officers have enough time to sit out there. They don't have to know that they're paid duty, but they see an officer sitting out there eventually, they will stop. And then if it upticks again, we put another one out there. Like, is it not worth doing that as long as it doesn't cost us too much money?
So I'm gonna ask staff to do two things. Number one is reach out to the police again. And number two is do a report on how we would implement a paid duty officer to do the ticket. Because I think it's a good thing to take a look at. Look at what it's gonna cost us. At the time frame of the money coming from the region, it would take forever. But if it's a minor cost in comparison to having an impact on the trucks, I think it may be worth it. So if we could have a report on that, thank you, Councilwoman, and see.
Madam Mayor, I guess the question I have for this, looking at paid officers is, it's not just on Sprague Road, it's not just the countryside, it's also in the Village Bear. I mean, we see trucks going up and down Piker Street, we see trucks going down Paul Street, we see trucks crossing General Dam. We see trucks on Cooper Street, we see trucks all over the place. So are we gonna look at some sort of program for the entire township, or how are we gonna do this? Because I would suggest it's everywhere in the township.
Why don't we start with the information first and look at a pilot project and pick 1 or 2 roads, see what it's gonna cost us first. And see how McNeely, you're on.
So, Madam Mayor, the number of calls we get about trucks on no truck haul routes is minor in comparison to speeding. I would suggest to you the ratio is about 10 to 1.
You're absolutely correct.
So is council's ask of me to research out the cost of paid duty to deal with road safety enforcement, which would capture both speed on designated roads and or vehicular traffic on no truck routes. Is a combination of both.
I think that would be perfect, councilors. Then also there's a road in,
There's roads all over the
yes,
township.
yes, that won't be just. Councilor Austin.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna reply to CEO McNeely. I'm wondering if we get the officers out specifically on the gravel roads, and obviously if there is speeding on those roads, but I wouldn't move them off those roads and just stick them randomly on any road to do speed traps. I would think that if we want to focus on the gravel trucks, I think that's a
we're
good.
focusing on trucks, we're not specifying, and we're not talking gravel roads, these are all paved roads. We don't have many gravel roads left.
So it's any road that's designated as a no
I'm
truck
sorry.
route.
I didn't mean gravel roads, I mean roads of gravel pits that people are complaining trucks are not supposed to be on.
So we're saying just trucks in general, because we can't target one group, because that would be a bias. But we don't have a bias. We have trucks that we don't want on our roads.
Offenders, no matter what you are.
Exactly. So, Council Williams,
Is there any thought about like maybe a way of like narrowing the roads so that trucks, it's less desirable for trucks to get on, or other methods to make it much less desirable for trucks to take that route?
we could, but that also impacts farm vehicles. And we don't want to target farm vehicles. So I think I like what we got, and this is a beginning. We'll do it as a test and see how it goes. We'll report for staff. Thank you very much, CEO McNeely. If the plate wasn't full enough. There was the Drainage Act. And also the City of Waterloo Bill 23, the Township of Aurora modification of the York Regional Official Plan, and correspondence from the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding decisions, notifications, EA requirements for advanced recycling facilities, and correspondence received from the City of Toronto regarding Bill 23. Any of those, anyone want to comment? The ones from Toronto confused me because John Tory saying he's going to use the Strong Mayor's Act and virtual and correspondence from the City of Toronto saying they're fighting a lot of stuff. That was interesting. But anyways, okay, thank you very much. We've given directions to staff. Can I have their motion, Councilor Bach here? And you can just name it as
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Roman, that the following be received for the purposes of information, 17-1-1 to 17-1-8.
all those in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Next is the Heritage Advisors reading minutes. Councilor Rooms.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tilly, that council received for the purposes of information the following items: Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated September 29th, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is the GRAC minutes. You'll note that I'm no longer a member of the GRAC. Chantal from the region is an excellent member going on to GRAC instead. And she will be a wealth of information. Great for them. So can I have the motion, please, Councilor Tilly?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Holmes, that council receive the purposes of finish the following items: Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee for GRAAD minutes dated October 27th, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is the bylaw, Councilor Roman.
Moved myself and by Councilor Oster that the following bylaws be taken as read the first and second time. Bylaw number 3368-22, a bylaw to establish no parking provisions. Bylaw number 3369-22, being a bylaw to authorize development agreement. Bylaw number 3370-22, being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levy in 2023. Bylaw number 3371-22, being a bylaw to borrow funds temporarily to meet current expenditures during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. Bylaw number 3374-22, being a bylaw to establish a committee of adjustment. Bylaw number 3375-22, being a bylaw to establish a committee to hear muzzling or leashing objections. Bylaw number 3376-22, a bylaw to establish a property standards committee. And bylaw 3377-22, being a bylaw to establish no parking provisions.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Councilor Austin, can I have the third reading?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Roman, that the following bylaw be taken and read the third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 3368-22, being the bylaw to establish no parking provisions. Bylaw number 3369-22, being a bylaw to authorize development agreement. Bylaw number 3370-22, being a bylaw to provide the interim tax levy for 23. Bylaw number 3371-22, being a bylaw to borrow funds temporarily to meet current expenditures during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. Bylaw number 3374-22, being a bylaw to establish committee of adjustment. Bylaw number 3375-22, being a bylaw to establish a committee to hear muzzling or leashing objections. Bylaw number 3376-22, being a bylaw to establish property standards committee. And bylaw number 3377-22, being a bylaw to establish no parking provisions.
We're missing a bylaw. Bylaw number 33. The fees and charges bylaw. We'll have to do this. Bylaw 373-22. So, no, something's wrong. We three, and so, what was the,
Paper takes over. This is why it's 7.2, because 7.2 is the bylaw.
so as amended, can we do, the first and second reading, bylaw as amended? Councils, so we'll get that as amended to include the fees and judges bylaw. All those in favor of that, as amended? And also the third reading, as amended to include fees and judges bylaw. Thank you. And Council Williams, so we're not opposed to, correct? Public time. Right. Okay, we'll go through this side. So Council Rowland, please.
Myself by Councilor Oster, that bylaw number 3372-22 being a bylaw for proceedings of council on December 2022, be read the first, second, third time you find passed, signed, and sealed by your clerk.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Who's gonna fight over the issue? It's us, go for it.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Rowland, whereas business before this council meeting has been completed at 8:12 p.m. And be it resolved that this meeting adjourns and meets again on Tuesday, January 17th at 6 p.m. for a special budget council meeting.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Well done. Thank you.